welcome to the video tutorial for making your flying geese each month and your loads of fun block of the month using your embroidery machine. Now you're going to reference this same pattern that you get in box 1 every single month for months 1 through 12 of your membership to make 6 flying geese. Now you make the flying geese in 3 sets of 2. So you can see you have the center, you have 2 centers, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 colors that make up each set. So you have 3 sets of 2 and you're gonna stitch them all at one time in your hoop. It's so easy to do and so much fun. So every month, again, you'll reference this pattern. You're gonna get the same Denim Stars Flying Geese border fabric that's the center right here of your flying geese, right? It's the same fabric every month. But then when it comes to your assorted prints, you're gonna get 6 different prints every month. Now there's 18 total prints, so some months you're gonna have very similar to maybe a previous month or a later month, but it's very organized, scrappy chaos. And we've sectioned out the fabrics how it'll allow you to have the best like scrappy outcome for your border. So you're gonna get 6 different prints every month, 18 prints in total used throughout the 12 months. So you will follow these instructions. You'll load your Flying Geese border block embroidery file, that same embroidery file every single month. And then you'll go through the process of creating your Flying Geese in hoops. So I'm just gonna pin my pattern up over here. And before we get started, I'm gonna tell you how I organize my fabric. So you know that you're gonna make your Flying Geese like so. You're gonna do 3 sets of 2. So I'm just kind of like, lay them out for myself. Pretend these are my 3 sets of 2, right? So I have a set here, a set here, and a set here. Now, if you remember, they're all scrappy, right? So I don't want to do 2 of the same color on the same block. That's not scrappy. But I don't want to make them too similar. So I'm going to do some organized scrappiness, and I'm going to place them in different, I basically just want to make sure that I don't have 2 of the same prints together, 2 of the same colors, right? So let's just do that. There we go. So take a look. I just willy-nilly put these out, and so I have no 2 same prints next to each other. This is, in my mind, I call it organized chaos because it's nice and scrappy still, but it's controlled. You know that you're not going to end up with an oopsie of 2 of the same things next to each other. So when I am laying these out, I am gonna just simply move these off to the side and keep them as a reference for myself throughout the entire time. It doesn't matter which order they're going in. There we go. You just wanna make sure you don't have the same above and below. So you can see off to the side, I'm just laying them out like so. And then I have no like prints above and below or beside each other. So now you're gonna load your white thread in your 8" by 12" hoop on your machine, and then you're gonna load your Sulky Tear Easy Stabilizer in your 8" by 12" hoop, and you have your embroidery file for your Flying Geese loaded. This is your Flying Geese for months 1 through 12 for your Flying Geese border blocks. And now it's time to get started. Okay, so take a look at what your hoop looks like. So it's on your machine like this. Throughout the whole time, I turn it sideways in front of me because to me, having the triangles like this makes the most sense. So how we're gonna build this is we're going to build, just gonna give you like an overview of the theory. We're gonna build the center of the Flying Geese on the bottom. Then we're gonna go to the left of each one. Then we're gonna build the right of each one. Then we're gonna do the center of each one on the top, and then the left of each one on the top, and the right of each one on the top. That will complete 3 sets of 2 Flying Geese. And then at the end, you'll follow your trim line and you'll trim it, remove the stabilizer, and you're just gonna sit them all the way until the end during your finishing kit instructions. So every month you're gonna make these and you're gonna store them and keep them real safe. Don't lose them. Have a nice little drawer, cute little bin that you put it in. If you're like my mom or me, you love buying plastic containers and drawers and things like that. So keep it safe just like you do your applique blocks. So the first piece, this is now what just stitched. This is step 4 of your Flying Geese embroidery pattern. Now for step 5 that we're doing, we're gonna put a 4x3 star on each one. So remember, I laid my pieces out on the side to mimic how I'm gonna put them in here. So I'm just gonna grab a 4x3 from each of my piles and let's talk about how we're gonna position them. you want it to cover this triangle. You want it to go past the top of the triangle, past the outer bottom line, and past the left and right side. So you just want to fully cover that triangle and fully cover the bottom line and then your left and right part of the triangle, of the rectangle that's stitched by the triangle. So again, I'm covering that triangle. I've got about 1/4 inch, maybe even 1/2 inch above it. And I'm going just a little bit on the outsides, right? 4x3 really is more than enough. And yep, past it, past it, past it. Now you see these lines that stitched in the middle? As we start building the left and right sides of our flying geese, because I like to work with oversized fabric, it's just easier, it eliminates oopsies. When we fold those over, you'll see what we're gonna do is actually use this as a trim line to make sure excess fabric isn't accidentally going all the way over into our other flying geese, right? So now for these 3, if you wanna tape them into place, don't be shy with your tape, tape them in place. I've been doing these a lot, and so I've just kind of been using my hand to hold them in place. But again, the tape that I recommend if you are gonna tape, which I kind of recommend taping maybe your first or second, third time maybe even, is this Transport 3M tape. I love it. It's basically like medical tape. When I was a kid, Mom did x-rays and MRIs, and she always had this in her lab coat pockets, and I just thought it was the coolest tape. It's really easy to tear. So this is my favorite tape for working with an embroidery machine. So now, again, this is step 5 that we've placed. Now, when we put this back on, it's gonna be step 6, and your machine is gonna give us a diagonal guideline on each of these 3 pieces. Okay, so take a look at what you have. You have 3 white diagonal lines. Now, my little piece of fabric, I did a big talk about how I wasn't taping, and it wiggled, but it's still past my rectangle, so I'm totally fine, even though this piece wiggled. But that's what you get for showing off and saying you're not taping, right? I'm gonna start taping in this video so I don't mess up. So now what we're gonna do first, this is step 7, we're gonna trim the angled fabric to the left of each of these, because what we're doing is cleaning up our seam allowance with this trimming. I don't know why I got real southern there. My trimming, everybody, my trimming. I am from the South, so I can't help it. Okay, so we're just doing a little trim. Now these scissors, I didn't talk about this in the video where I talked about notions, but these are just like basic applique scissors. They have this like nice little flat surface, and that just makes you not poke through your stabilizer or anything while you're trimming. So just trim right up to that. Now we're gonna place a fabric. So remember, I have my pieces laid out on the side in order of how I want them to appear. So I'm gonna take my first piece, I'm gonna flip it so it's the right sides together, and I'm gonna line it up. I go about 1/4 inch past the stitched line on the top, and then on the bottom, I wanna make sure that my little piece is extending past this rectangle, right? And then what's gonna happen is a line is gonna stitch here to give us our 1/4 inch seam, and it's gonna flip all the way over. Pretty cool. Then we're gonna take a piece and put right here. Again, I go about 1/4 inch past that top line. There we go. And then our third piece. And again, feel free to tape. Don't be shy with your tape. Just like so. We're gonna put this on the machine, and it's gonna give us an angled line, creating our seam for each of these 3 pieces. Okay, so what's stitched is your 1/4 inch seam. So now step 9 says we're gonna press our fabric up. So just give it a little finger press, and then take your iron, and you're actually gonna press it down. There you go. And then we're gonna do the same thing with this middle. And now, remember how I talked about these being our trim lines? Take a look. They're gonna start coming into play on this step. Because if you take a look at my fabric, I need it to be oversized so that I cover everywhere, right? However, look, it's coming all the way into the territory of this flying geese. So if I don't trim it, my trim line, this runs a chance of getting part of this, and we don't want that. So easy peasy, take your scissors, and this is not anything that needs to be accurate. You're just gonna trim roughly over that trim line. This, toss it aside. So you can see I'm for sure not going into the territory of my other flying geese. All right, and then we're gonna do the same thing with this one. Give it a little press and follow that trim line in the middle, and we're just gonna trim. Very clever, right? I like it. I just like to work with oversized pieces and have enough, so I'd rather do a little trimming then be like, uh-oh, I gotta do it again, right? So now when we put this back on, the machine is gonna give us a right angled line that's gonna be a guideline and a trim line for us. Okay, so what's stitched in step 10 is that diagonal line. So now we're on to step 11, and what we're gonna do first is give ourselves a little haircut. We're gonna trim right here. Why am I being so southern? My goodness, I don't know what's come over me. I ate Sunny's for lunch. Maybe that's it. I had barbecue. There we go. Just gonna trim that. And on this third one. So let's take a look at what our step 11 says. Now we are going to put down some assorted fabrics. So again, I have them laid out how I want them. I'm gonna take the piece that goes here, and I'm gonna go about a 1/4 inch past the top of that line, and then line it up all the way. And again, it's gonna exceed out. That's fine. And then go about 1/4 inch up and over. And then the same with this last one, just like so. Again, feel free to be a good taper. Another thing you can do to encourage a piece to stay where you're putting it without taping is just give it a little press with the iron. Okay, so now the machine is gonna come back and give us our 1/4 inch seam. Okay, so now we're on to step 13. We are going to finger press this over and then give it a press with your iron as well. Look how cute. You're starting to see a flying geese, a goosey geese. And again, here's where we start to reference that trim line, because we don't want to have this fabric interfering over here. So where's my trim line? Right there. I gotta have a different angle when I trim. I know that's funny, but it's true. Whoop. There we go. And now, turn it back the right way. I'm gonna give that a press because I wrinkled it a little. There we go. And you don't want to trim within this rectangle, right? Just on these trim lines. There we go, and press that open. There we go. Awesome. And again, do a little trim. Let's see if I can trim without turning my hoop. That was silly of me. Boop. There you go. And we'll give that a little press. So now what our machine is gonna do is gonna give us a straight line. And this is gonna be a guideline for trimming this excess off. So if you wanna do a little tape, I would put tape across right in here around where this point is. That's where I would put tape if you want to. Alrighty, let's go on to that next step. Okay, so now you have that straight line. So we are on step 15, and we need to trim this excess across the top. So just get in there, trim, trim, trim. There you go. And then trim. And there's like overlap right here, right in the center, so it's a little thicker. Don't worry, just trim, trim, trim. There you go. And a final trimming, trim, trim, trim. There we go. Okay, and now we are going to take our denim pieces. Again, I have my fabric laid out here to the side, so I'm just grabbing that. Now you are gonna take it, the 4x3, and you are gonna make sure that it lines up right here with that stitch line, and you want it to be extending past the left and right side of your triangle. So it's the 3 inches wide and 4 inches tall is how you're putting it down. So again, nice and straight at that line, going straight down, extended past that rectangle, and the final piece. And I should say, this is not a directional fabric, so that helps, right? If it was directional, heaven help us, that wouldn't be fun, would it? None of these are directional. It's very nice. There we go. I'm gonna wiggle that a little. There we go. So it's extended past. So now our machine is gonna do another straight horizontal line right here, a 1/4 inch down to give us our seam. Okay, so now we have our seam allowances. So step 17 is to press our fabric up. When we press it up, you'll see that it's gonna extend past the left and right of this rectangle, and it's gonna extend past the top of it. So just give it a press. There we go. Same thing right here. And you can feel the stitching, make sure it's right. Make sure it's extended past. And then this third one right here. There we go. So now if you want to tape on this step, I would put the tape doot, 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 right across the top. And what's gonna stitch in the next step, step 18, we're gonna repeat the same process down here to do our diagonals. So we're gonna have one guideline stitch. It's gonna be our guideline and our trim line on the left of each of these 3 pieces. Okay, so now we have that diagonal line and we're moving on to step 19, which is to trim the excess right here. There we go. And I'm just trimming the excess of the little star fabric. I'm not gonna trim this excess yet because that'll be done when we're trimming. And then right on down. And again, I'm just trimming that star fabric at the moment. And then right here. So now we need to put 3 more cute pieces of fabric in place. So I'm pulling from the order I have. I'm gonna go about a 1/4 inch past at the top and then go all the way down. There we go. Then our next piece that goes right here. And again, it's scrappy. Your pieces can be whatever you want and they're different every month, remember? So just have fun with these colors. So a 1/4 inch past and then there we go. So now these are in place and we're gonna have our seam stitched on all 3. Okay, so that seam is stitched. Now we're on step 21. We are going to fold our fabric out and give it a press. You can say you're folding it up, you're folding it left, whatever you want to call it. Now we're gonna utilize this trim line again, that center, remember that stitched at the very beginning in step 4? There we go. And now just take your scissors and where this trim line is, just go right up it. You're just making sure that this piece doesn't interfere with its neighbor. There we go, and I'll give that another press in a second. There we go. Awesome, isn't this fun? So easy, so easy peasy. There we go. So now that I messed with them, I'm gonna give them a press again. Keep them nice and flat. There we go. So now the next step, the machine is gonna stitch a guideline and a trim line for us on the right side of each of them. Okay, so we have that line stitched on all 3. Now it's time to trim. So we're on step 23 and I'm trimming just the star fabric away, the denim stars. There we go. And right here on the 3rd one. Whoop. There we go. And so now we're gonna place our final cute pieces. So just a little bit past there. And then in the center, go past that top like you've been doing the whole time. And a final piece right there. And if you want, give it a little press. So we're gonna have one more little seam allowance line stitched for us. Alrighty, so time to press these up. This is step 25. And after we press these up and trim those middles, what's gonna stitch is the final rectangle and trim line. So I am gonna tell you, no matter how cool you think you are, you need to tape at this next step. It just is gonna make your life a little easier if you do. So let's go on and trim. Remember, because if you don't trim, it's gonna come to be a problem because it's gonna be in your other block and you don't want that. So there you go. And then let's get this one. There we go. Look how cute. See, organized, chaos, scrappiness, they're all different. And so at the end of the year, after you've made 6 of these every month, for 12 of the 14 months, you're gonna have such a fun variety of flying geese to work with as you're putting together your borders. It's gonna be really, really fun. Okay, so I'm gonna lay everything nice and flat, get it nice and ironed. That doesn't wanna lay, tell it to lay down. There we go. Oh, look, and then I made that one wrinkled. Okay, so cool that off a little, and now what your machine is gonna do is stitch all the way around each of these. So I'm gonna tape wherever my machine might pull, right? So I'm gonna go at the corners, and then especially where things overlap like this, because you don't want the foot of your machine to catch anything. I'd rather pull tape out than something else, right? So just go up to the corners. Because also this line that it's stitching is your ultimate trim line. So you want as much accuracy as you can. It's gonna be exactly the same rectangle that's stitched at the very beginning. Remember those rectangles that are our guides? That's the exact measurement. So now make sure I'm going over my little seams like that. See? Holding those down. There we go. So like I said, on this step, I'm not shy with my tape. There we go. And let's do some right here. I think that feels nice and secure as it goes around. And then I'll tell you as it's stitching, I'm gonna be right here with it watching, just to make sure none of my pieces of fabric get a mind of their own and try and pop up. They won't. Okay, so let's continue on. What's gonna stitch next is step 26, that 2.5 by 5.81 trim line. Ta-da, you did it. You have 3 sets of 2 flying geese. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 flying geese in total. So you're done in your hoop. You can take this out. And now I'm just gonna show you real quick how to trim. I'll show you on one. You're gonna wanna remove all your stabilizer as well. Let me get my hoop out of the way. So you can either reference the trim line from the front, or if it's easier for you to see from the back, you can reference this trim line as well, the outer one, because they're the exact same line. It's stitched over itself. So what you wanna do is be nice and straight. I'm gonna put my bottom line across the bottom of that rectangle, right? So I know it's nice and straight. So that means up the right side, I should have a perfect line, and I do. And I basically wanna cut as close to on that stitch line as possible. And then we'll toss that aside. Now I have a nice line here. So when I turn this, I'll line my ruler across the bottom with that line. And then I want to be straight on that stitch line. And I'm only trimming one at a time. There we go. And if you want, remember that trim line that we had in the middle? I'm gonna whack it away so I have less bulk. I should have done that at the beginning. So now this little bottom, so I have 2 perfect lines. Now, when I line this up, this is 2.5. So I'll have perfectly on my 2.5 line here and across the bottom line, any bottom line right here. And then I should be right up on my stitching all the way, which I am. So this is how you get perfect trimming. Now to measure 5.81, y'all, it's not gonna happen. So now you have these perfect lines, you're gonna trust that line. So you're gonna come across the bottom and you're gonna line it up here. So see, I have a perfect line across the top, perfect line across the bottom, because that total height right here on how I'm trimming it is 2.5. Now from left and right, my width, remember it's 5.81, it's gonna be a weird not touching a line. It's gonna be past that 3/4 inch, but not much. So there we go. I'm on that line. And now I trim. And let's flip it over and look at the most perfect flying geese you ever did see. Look how good that looks. So you're gonna do that same thing to trim. I like to start on the bottom, so I'm trimming that side line and then just go rotate all the way around, flipping it 1/4 every time, and you're gonna get the perfect thing. So now you're just gonna keep these. You can go on and tear out your stabilizer. It's real easy to tear away. See, if it gets to where it's like sticking to a string, because that is gonna happen, give it a whack. You're good. It's an extra seam from your stitch line. So just keep tearing that out. If you need to start tearing in the middle, a little trick with stabilizers, take a pin and just lightly score it and then get your nail under there or your pin under there and lift it up, and you can get your stabilizer to tear away easily. See, inside? So that's a nice little trick for tearing away your stabilizer. So this is ready to go for the end. So again, we're not gonna touch these. We're gonna make them every single month for boxes 1 through 12. then you're not going to use them at all in month 13. And then when you get to that 14th box is where we're going to assemble our borders. So you want to keep these in a safe place, and you're going to reference the same pattern the whole time. And you can see as I go, I check myself off. So don't be shy to write on your pattern. Take a look. You can see as I've been doing this, I check off my steps. All right, so you're going to reference this every single month. Well, I guess maybe you don't want to check off on it every single month. Just know where you are, I guess. So there we go. That was so much fun to make. Now you will also have a video tutorial every month for making your applique. So that'll be the video tutorial you'll check out next. Happy stitching.